Welcome, everybody. Yep. Apparently quite popular. We were in the UK. Everybody likes the ride around videos. Getting out, getting about. Thank you for that feedback. Great meeting both our community members and some YouTube followers in London recently. Yeah, let's get on with talking about it. It's a Sunday that I'm recording this. Yep, and a lot of distraction is going on down. You've got the distraction of the outing of Obama. You've got the distraction of the illustration of an economic financial tension in a once bromance of Trump versus Powell, which all the cigar smoking, stick to the plan, you voted right for Trump type cartel of controlled opposition will tell you, yeah, Trump's getting after the Fed, doing exactly as he said he would. You know, follow through on mandate. You voted right. That same guy who's now saying, yeah, get over the Epstein list. What do you want with that story? Much bigger fish to fry than a blackmail cult that actually controls the whole nation. Oh, okay. If you say so, sir. What kind of fish would be bigger than that, I might wonder. So, and the usual fools following and the usual Zio divorce to you crowd, as I've highlighted before, the biggest percentage of the divorce crowd at over 22% of attendees is American. Well, they carry an American passport as their primary passport. None of the internationalists think in nation-state terms. They rule the world. They think in the world is in fact their oyster, and they're just provinces for which they can do various things with minor arbitrage rules between them. But generally, they can do what the hell they like through whatever proxies they like across most parts of the world most of the time, and soon to be synchronized to be evermore that way. There are some national restrictions, we know, but for the international classes, the parasitic classes that have always been parasitic, never been farmers, let me tell you. The line of work they have utter disdain for is men of the soil. And funny enough, my opinion is the opposite. I think the most grounded, centered people, unfortunately sometimes the most gullible, have been the farmers. But, you know, that's an interesting tangent. So Trump versus Powell, ignore it largely. It's there to distract you away from the fact that they're probably going to do a deal with the gal that I like to call Max Jizzings. It's actually Ghislaine Maxwell. But I think a deal's not too far off. They're getting so much bad cuff on the obvious renege on one of the most clear-cut and obvious promises that we knew would never happen if you're smart. If you're part of the cigar-smoking, goat-rearing variety, you might not be as smart. And you think it's all 5D chess not to release the list. And not to hide the fact that, in actual fact, there is no voting yourself anything. They're all blackmailed and controlled, as the UK is finding out. Lest we forget about our Starmer-based friends. A sudden pivot, it seems, in conscience with regards to Gaza. Never mind the fact that some legit journos showing up talking to the head of the Air Force, soon to be the head of the whole defense in the United Kingdom, and questioning them why Britain continues to run sorties from Cyprus, which is where we are right now, by the way, barely a few kilometers away from the base, where ongoing British resources are being perpetually spent to help with bombing and missile shootdowns for the nation that may never be criticized. Of course, Macron, as a bit of a sideshow, also did a little bit of EU softening. There should be a Palestinian state. So the word's getting out, and the evidence is now irrefutable that 20% of a population with a much higher degree of children and women have actually been entirely eliminated and killed. Imagine 1 in 5 of family and friends were all killed in Gaza, in your country, in your county. How many people actually that is? It doesn't sound like a lot, 1 in 5. It totally is. You know, if you had a class of 100 people in your school reunion, it's essentially showing up and only 80 people arrive and everyone else is dead, and there's some form of valedictory service for them that year. Imagine in a single year, if you're the kind that meets your schoolmates every year, 20% died, and young. So not when you're all in your 60s and 70s, where maybe you might approach a bad year that could give something approaching that level. No, most of them kids and young women, young mothers. So imagine 2 or 3 years after school while you're all in your 20s. Anyway, so we're getting a little bit of a, well, there should maybe be a, and Trump saying, no, don't listen to him. He's a poof, and he married his molester, his male molester. Don't listen too much to him. He's just, I like the guy, but he's just shooting some smack, managing the news flows, creating some vibe. And of course, Starmer's sudden, we're deeply concerned, that's all come about by a new party created by Corbyn and some other person, but with all the wrong kind of handlers and money raisers. You see, they want to control the opposition. Schneider is one of the names. I think you'll have an idea where I'm going with that. There's another one, equally obvious. And Corbyn, of course, was very anti. Bit of a communist, but very anti the wars of Israel. So Labour, fearing that the left wing in the UK is about to get divided, is out of expedience finding some conscience for what's going on over there. All of a sudden, you know that? Suddenly there's some, well, this shouldn't be happening, well, that's some comments on that regard. And France as well. Not funny. That's called expedience. A change of tone for personal expedience, for political expedience. That's not empathy. That's not sympathy. That's not seeing bodies of infants with rounds going through their skulls or their hearts, perfectly assassinated. No. That's not emotional. That would have upset you at the time, you see, when it happened. Anyway, so markets as well, very interesting. We'll talk about markets. I know some people don't like the politics and they don't agree. They go, Muslim man bad. And what about rape gangs in the UK, stabbings in London, for example? A lot of them might be people of nations that we happen to bomb. And now we go, hey, so good we're on the ground and got to know you. You seem like the right kind of criminal to come and create mayhem in our country. Let's export you. And you can have welfare, mobile phone and credits, and a hotel. Even 4-star hotels. right up and down the countryside. Yep, there's that going on. Now, here's the thing. You can hate the stick that beats you, or you can identify the handler. And you got to decide what kind of IQ range you want to fall into there. Don't get me wrong. The perps on those rape gangs need to be stretched by their neck. 100%. But don't get into divide and conquer games with the silent third party successfully seeing you fighting among yourselves. Criminality. Play principle, not color, not creed, not religion. Play principle. Who's the orchestrator? Who the perps? Who the victim? The drama triangle. Right there is your template to navigate the Marxism that is coming your way. And boy, are we getting Marxism hard and fast. Porsche just secured the fact that I won't be buying one when I was considering buying one, with their rainbow colored. And so some guy comes almost to be expected. What's wrong with them saying people of the LGBTQN community are welcome? There's nothing wrong in welcoming anyone. But if you're a commercial company that sells cars, who are you to preach to me? And who are you to make special welcomes for one small niche of your potential client base? What you're actually saying is, green lives matter. And what's unsaid is, the other colors might not matter anymore, or green lives need a special attention. And you see, inside the cracks of what goes unsaid is the Marxism. It's the nuance. It's what goes unsaid. It's what goes implied. It's the brown lives have made the green lives people much worse. You know, the aliens, we haven't been good enough to the Martians that have landed. And those brown live people have been particularly mean. But they don't say that. They just say green lives matter. Isn't that fascinating? Green lives matter. So what happens? The others don't. It doesn't need to be said. You're specifically making a case. Why is a commercial organization ever making a specific case about anybody's gender, preferences, or sexual orientation? I'm good with whatever people choose to go down with. Just don't promote any particularly. Don't selectively promote. Don't selectively promote, because what you're actually saying is there's an asymmetry that's the right thing to do. And here's the thing about symmetry. Symmetry is beauty. Asymmetry is prejudice. Right there. Right there's the key phrase. Asymmetry is a prejudice. Because you're elevating something over something else. And you can't say, but previously this, but previously that. You establish, if you say you want this equal, equitable society, actually, you behave equally and equitably. You don't behave in a biased, asymmetrical fashion. But there you go. Here's my political rant in a nutshell. Of course, we know that BlackRock drives that and are the big shareholders. We know that they aren't diverse. We know that they are inherently a Marxist force of tokenization and asset stripping for a ruling class of supremacist Talmudic types. We know all these things because we know the history of Bolshevism. And boy, is this Bolshevik Marxist times, where you vilify one and praise another. This is good boy, bad boy. Also happening on the markets are long end debts staying very, very high. On the rate side, that is, yields. Gold broke out and then rode down. And I'm going to be talking to you about that because some part of it took me by surprise. But the good news is that the bull is assured, only now going to come with a bigger target. First of all, our original setup is not invalidated, but there was a violent, it should be said, pullback against a strong upside mood. So why did that happen? Truth is, you'll never know. Some folk will give you macroeconomic takes. You know, tariffs, Europe deal, Japan deal. By the way, Trump said a whole bunch of bullshit and Japan basically completely ruled out. Yeah, they've given us 500 billion for us to make 90% of the profits of whatever, all invested in the US. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. Japan is, in fact, ironically, a completely captured financial slave nation of the US. But it doesn't mean as overtly in that sense. So Trump's usual lathery, non-detail specific malarkey, which is about as inaccurate as it ever was, and about as broad and as it's a beautiful deal. We've done a beautiful deal. One of the best deals. I tell you, this deal, it took a long time. But this deal is the deal to end all deals. You know, he's going to keep on keeping on being an Epstein asset. By the way, almost assuredly Epstein never died. Almost assuredly, if I had to bet on it. They hate the notion that we ever take a scalp of theirs. It's a complete orchestrated escape for an agent who will retire from frontline duty having done a lot of damage to the world and a lot of work for his Talmudic supremacist cause. I mean, he was in the White House from the Clinton era. Don't forget who the blowjob queen was with Clinton. And, you know, you could notice culturally who she was, who she was born as. You might do a bit of noticing, or you might not. Depends how much you want to know. So bonds yields are climbing. They didn't climb particularly much this week. They stayed elevated. On some of them they climbed. And everyone says to me, you don't understand. It's the same. You know, you get this from everyone. The George Gammon school of thought says, you don't understand. Their comment on our video goes something like this. They can make a spread on dealing in debt, and they can earn, 1% on collateral, or get a higher margin, a little bit higher rate, when everyone else is short on collateral. And I'm going, if debt is the new tulip mania on the downside, why does would anyone want to make a market on it? Because you've got to have it to make a market on it. You've got to be a buyer at some point, and you've got to be a seller at any point. Do you want to make a market on tulip mania post the turn? You know, they're too clever. It's all like, you don't understand the minutiae of how the bond market works. It's like, no, you don't understand. This asset class is shit. It's undesirable. It's paying a terrible rate. It's in a steady, consistent loss situation of capital valuation. And, and on top of that, apart from these capital losses, it could escalate suddenly very violently. And imagine if a bunch of insiders are going short on debt, and you, the market maker on this pristine collateral, on his ears, and you bought net long, and you're trying to lay it off, and you suddenly realize everybody else has also got the memo. You're going bust. So why? Well, my answer to that is those same banks got their reserve ratios adjusted so that they could buy more treasuries under the obligation of the Fed. Well, the banks own the Fed works for the banks. They work for each other, they're part of the cult. They're maintaining the Ponzi scheme. So of course, they bought treasuries to maintain the game, to keep it going. And in fact, the debt's duration is shortening immensely. Tubby Costa, a worthy follow on X, at Tubby Costa, Crescat Capital, was highlighting in Japan that only 10% of the debt is on the long end nowadays. Everything is crowding out into ever shorter duration. And many are saying the same is happening here in America. They say, who cares about the long end? The Fed is refinancing on the short end. And everyone says, what do you care if you've got a 3-month bill? Well, you care bigly if the debt reset happens in that 3 months, or before you have time to sell it on to some other mug. So everybody thinks it's just long duration that is guaranteed a collapse. Happy to keep swiveling short term. But that means you continue to expire and you continue to have to roll that debt and reissue new debt. So that becomes a very, very busy. Everyone thinks once you've done too much debt, you just move to some other place on the curve, the duration curve. And that the same problems that have happened on the long end aren't going to somehow happen on the short end. Sorry, there's someone who's got to do the not-for-profit trade and keep buying the duration and the shorter durations and the shorter duration. Someone's going to be the holder. And in the meantime, the fiat is being debased as well as part of a debt-based collapse, because the two go hand in hand. Everyone's so happy and proud to highlight that the stock market is at an all-time high. Your currency is over 11% down in the 7 months to date. Divide it by the Swiss franc, and you haven't even rallied half the crash you had in April. Never mind divide by gold. But everyone like, nominal new high. Of course it's over inflated, the stock market. Of course you're at the Buffett indicator, GDP versus stock market cap. Ridiculous o'clock. Of course. And of course it's got scope to go down nominally, but it's already down in real terms. And they're still waiting for a melt-up. For the melt-up ballers, rebounding vigorously to where you once were and going a couple of percentage beyond. That's just the taking back of a collapse in April. To be standing still, you should be 11% up from January the 1st. Just on fiat debasement. So fiat debasement is another sleight of hand. So many people fall for the Culsist special trick of nominal. Especially now, the multiple is far larger. Everybody's saying, well, all these metals will go into a bull run. No! First, the primary reserve asset alternative to debt, which is what we said. So we see the likes of Loopy, Roman, getting big plaudits, explaining that everyone's moving from, and he's solid, he's really solid, it's not a criticism, on zero hedge. How everyone's getting out of debt and getting into gold. Well, that's been our message. We suffer from a Cassandra complex. That's been our message since the 2020. Quarter 3 and quarter 4 of 2020, we've been saying that. But you've got to be a more presentable face, I suppose. Maybe a little bit less jokey pokey on YouTube. More wearing your tie and all of that. So no one will say we said it. But you've been having a substitution of reserve assets. One's a phony and is found out, and the bull market for it is over, and rates can only go up. And the other is perpetual. And everyone's reverting back to truth. It's a truth discovery. It's not a price discovery, it's a truth discovery. So you don't get to be a hero for saying, ooh, copper now is going to get price discovery. Ooh, silver now is going to get price discovery. Ooh, Vietnam. No! The debasement that first shows on the reserve assets will show on all commodities in due course. And then you get all these people that are saying, well, they might revalue. They may revalue. But one of them that I saw on a popular channel was saying they could revalue to 15 grand and you wouldn't get any inflation. No, you will. Because it's not about revaluing gold. It's about acknowledging the debasement of the dollar. You don't revalue gold and silver and platinum not go up. You don't watch silver and platinum not go up and in a short time later see copper go up. You don't have copper, silver, platinum all go up and not see cocoa beans go up. You don't see cocoa beans go up and not coffee beans go up. Of course you'll see inflation. They say, oh, but it's only by a small amount. I'm sorry, Clive. It's not accurate. You don't get to revalue and have 3.9 trillion of new money that you suddenly decided to acknowledge the real value of gold and not get commensurate moves in other precious metals. It won't happen like that. I'm sorry. And in fact, if we don't get a huge demand-destroying event that sees everyone sell everything, the gold-silver ratio will actually go down. In the event of a demand-destroying event, it can spike up one more time, and we continue to reserve that possibility. If they do August, September, October, pandemic Mark II, or who knows, CBDC launch of the Eurozone due to some banks suddenly discovering that they've been insolvent for the last decade and a half. No, you don't revalue gold to 15k and others on their channels to 20k. You don't revalue a long-standing reserve asset that has been held down to mask the debasement of fiat currency. You don't revalue it, pick up 3.9 trillion. 3.9 trillion, how long do you think that gives you? You're 37 going 38 trillion in debt. 3.9 trillion, okay, acknowledge that, put it up. You just made your enemy stronger. I'm not saying this won't happen, by the way. Don't get me wrong, it can happen. The notion that it's not inflationary for it to happen if it's just done a little bit like 15,000. Sorry, mate. You're wrong. Clive's off base. I don't know if George said the same at 20k, but he was also talking about the revisionists. If you revise gold up, basically you're acknowledging that there's been, like the Euro-Swiss franc, during the Euro-Swiss franc travesty era of '09 and then again 15. You're acknowledging that there's been a kind of soft peg. And you're saying, well, we won't let the market find the new price, but we'll take some of the pressure off by acknowledging that it should be a lot more. Silver. So here's how you prove whether my theory is wrong or right, or the likes of the others that say there's no inflation in that, they should do it. Here's how you prove it right. If it happens, they show up one day out of the blue. Of course, the insiders, you've got to recognize how corrupt. They want to steal at every opportunity. They want the corrupt option to make extra shekels for themselves. So you'll see it in the volume. You'll see it start moving beforehand, just like Trump token, all the other scams that are being run to make the actors and other permanent governance of psychopathic nature. Don't forget, your government, USA, discussed and went into serious stages of planning to bomb and murder and slaughter thousands of people in Florida to justify an invasion in Cuba. Never mind 9/11. Where only a select grouping got the "don't go into work today" text on the specialist messaging service, which most guys aren't on, unless you have supremacist status. So, that's your government. They're not going to tell you anything, and the insiders are going to cheat, because that's what they've always done. That's what they've been doing recently, and that's what they're going to continue to do. Known liars and frauds continue to be known liars and frauds. Ignore the people that tell you Trump's working for you. He's just suppressed the Epstein list. Probably because of his dangerous levels of involvement therein too. And the fact that it would actually open up the can to the fact that the entire service doesn't work for you. It works for a foreign nation and a foreign group of people that see themselves as rightfully supreme over you. Interesting. That's why it died. But why did JP Morgan pay out huge amounts? Having provided banking relationships for smugglers, kidnappers, and rapists of underage people. Children, let me say. And not just women, both genders. So with that all under the lid, these people on the revaluation game, again we say, we're not saying it can't happen, but the real truth is, if you want to reset the clock properly, ideally you should get rid of 40 trillion and be positive for once. Very quickly, don't worry, they'll steal their way back into it. You should value gold a lot higher, which of course, again, would be inflationary. But doing it 5 times to 15,000 is also going to be inflationary. But you know what silver does? It goes up 7 times plus. Platinum goes up 7.5 times. And copper goes up 2.5 times. Thanks to compressed construction, apart from the statists, probably slightly less physical demand industrially, but they all go up. Meaning you end up in a perverse place where property values can hold their own because of all these input costs to build again, but lending gets too expensive, not enough people have access to finance. So it becomes the exorbitant privilege of the rich, cash buyers, and those that have banking relationships regardless of rates and preferential terms. Those people have always existed, and you ain't one. I mean, at the end of the day, Elon borrowed to buy Twitter, no less. even if we'd made a lot of money. And he wasn't that rich after PayPal. He had about 100 million. But you see, he's a Rockefeller frontman. That's who he is. Any reval of gold will be inflationary. Because if you think the only thing that then goes up is that which is mandated to go up, gold, I've got a bridge to sell you. An orange one in San Francisco. Watch how the metals that went into that bugger go up in price. When you reval gold from 3,300 to 15,000. Wrong. Of course it's inflationary. But it's not inflationary in the meaning of the word of consumer price inflationary. It's the acknowledgement of the full debasement of the currency that the debt and fiat instrument represents, and that gold now would represent at a far higher price. Meaning, even property would go up in prices. Cars would go up, even second-hand ones. Not that anyone would be able to buy them. Gold holders would. Gold bugs will be buying everything. They'll have no competition. Blood in the street, shit bids are us. Gold, silver, platinum stackers. But of course, they know about us. They've thought about us. Tokenization. Why would they do a reval before they've got you to tokenize your precious metal? Why? How do they tax you on your capital gains if they haven't made it? And there's videos going around that's saying you can hold silver and gold, but you'll have to have it professionally vaulted at custody by regulated, agreed upon government custody. All these things I warned on are being discussed now. You can't hold it all of a sudden. Well, we do, and we can. Right now we do. But how much longer until it starts to be referred to as grey gold, and later to become black gold, untaxed, dirty money? How long, you think? We have a huge problem, you know. There's a swathe of investors that don't think it's right to pay their fair share and have not declared and placed their metals under a regulated Vaults Act that we passed, you know, some date in the future, that ensures that your custody will be good and held by reliable, honest people and audited on a day-by-day basis with an NFT and a token that represents your ownership. However, despite taking all these steps to secure the industry against rabid rock buyers causing financial stress to our financial system, there are many holdouts, like anti-vaxxers they are. They don't want to bring in their metals. It's time we took a no-tolerance policy towards these pet rock financial system underminers and said 5 years prison and $1 million fine for all those that refuse to recognize the austere times we find ourselves in and work together. We are all in this together. It's time we built back better. And for that, we need an equitable society where no group of individuals find themselves above the law. Criminality is criminality and will be met with a zero tolerance. We are now, for those reasons of bringing our great society a step forward, requesting that all of you put forward any name that you should know of any such individual that is refusing to place in safekeeping with the government's approved, tokenized, audited vaults for precious metals. We will pay a $10,000 reward on any conviction that leads to the end of such dirty money, black, parallel financial systems that are undermining our grand new world money system. I can see it now. I could do the speech, I tell you. I can do it all. Right here. I'll stop in the center of this village in Papos. I'll get out my soapbox and they will hear me pontify political. Oh yes, the guilt that should be placed on those that seek to preserve their buying power. Yes, my friends, we are all Palestinians now. By resisting, we face genocide. It's coming. The fires have got bigger here in Cyprus, following a certain increase in user group. Very, very big fires, bigger than ever before. 100 square meters. Of course it's fire season. Of course every year we get a little bit of fires. This time they're calling arson, foul play, accelerants. And similarly in other tweets, we hear that Cyprus is also part of the promised land. A great God, unknowns to us all, but did promise this. Did promise this land. We hear many people making utterances. A certain kind of people making utterances that the Grand Levant includes Cyprus and is part of the great promised land for God's chosen people. Yep. Kind of smells of California fires, Hawaii fires. Anybody ever go back, see who the corporations are that bought all that land up? You know, the insurers that backed out a couple of months before against fire, tipped off insurers to make sure that those people whose homes burnt down lost everything. Who are the owners today? We've had enough time. It's time to find out. It's time you did some research, friends. I don't know. I don't know at all. Maybe it's the same company that's brought up over 11,000 acres of British farmland. Also, along with Shill Gates, bought up a whole bunch of American farmland. Also, tried to encourage Brits out of farming generally. We've been told here in Cyprus that it was self-reliance, but now the water is being switched off to the farmers. The small subsistence farmer is no longer getting water. They're being told, but there's a shortage, I tell you. Of course, it's summer, it's dry. There's a shortage of water. Well, let me tell you, friends, in this planetary universe of ours, there's zero shortage of water. There are engineered shortages logistically of water, where there's a whole bunch of water in one place and none in another. They have desalination plants after all. But there's a shortage of water. And as a result, the farmers are having water switched off so they cannot grow. And that fruit and veg will be exported into Cyprus from Europe in bad water times. And now the fires get bigger. The temperature was 37 in one of the coolest villages, by the way. That means Nicosia 42. Standard summer for Cyprus. It's about 5:30, 6. The earliest I dare go cycle. If you don't get it done in the morning, you're not going until 5, 6 o'clock. My face is burnt from a short spell yesterday going swimming. Yep. Marxism is marching forward under many false names. Zionism, Nazism, all the isms lead to Marxism. Socialism is the gateway drug to Marxism. UK people are waking up today needing a VPN to prove they're not children. Otherwise, certain tweets may not be seen. That's right. Tweets giving real news about what's going on in white working class areas where cadres of rent-a-crowd Antifa types are being bussed in to counter other rioters that are complaining about ethnic immigrants raping indigenous girls and boys. You're not to see that news. Don't get sucked into the outrage. Remember, who is the beater, not the stick? Who yields the stick? Who funds? Who operates? Who is the real controller? And you'll find all roads lead to Marxism. The gal in the floaty dress says, "Here comes a fucking nutter," screaming on the top of his lungs. It's quite uncommon to have someone who is riding a bike, making sure his audio. I tend to shout too loud because I feel the wind is blowing. And in the end, it sounds like I'm bellowing at you. Sorry for that. It's quite funny that gal, she couldn't control her dress, but she was pretty sure that there was a nut job of some variety coming down on his bike, talking to himself. It is quite annoying. I know when you're walking and you see someone having an animated conversation with his earphones in, you first think he's talking to you, and then you double take. In this sense, I am talking to the me. So I said I'd refer into the gold market and the harsh sell. So A, the original setup is still valid. B, I actually think overall, though, the pattern is extended. That means it takes a little longer to perform, but has given us a bigger target. Nice view of the bay here for you. I will trust, and let me rather say again, I will thrust rather than trust. I trust it as well, but I will thrust this trusty steed one side and throw myself naked into the sea, in a place where that is permitted, of course, to cool down from this great bellowing clip of the way of the world and the marching totalitarianism. Beware the voices. There's a lot of them being birthed in the US right now. Be very aware the voices that tell you your current political representative is working for you. That's a very novel and stupid idea, and it hasn't happened in absolute decades. But he wasn't a real Republican. He was a renegade. You know, be very, very aware. A lot of them are being birthed right now. Remember, they need to keep you confused on hoping. Hope is the opiate of the inert. The inert that takes no action, does nothing for positioning in reset times. They feed him hope to keep him inert and stupid. He thinks, well, someone else, somewhere else, is working for me on that front. And that, my friends, is the most deluded thought that only someone who is prone to inertia and watching too much TV should ever make. The normies of this world are my vote change something, my political representative will ensure that none of this misery porn the sniper is pouring down on my head will ever happen. And they will zig and they will zag to keep you confused and bewildered, because a confused and bewildered enemy is one that is reacting, not planning. And if you left reacting to every zig and zag that they're doing, you are losing, and you're losing badly. There hasn't been a politician that seriously was concerned for the trajectory of the world, probably since JFK, who went to Palestine long before becoming a politician and knew the problems and knew the agenda, that visited and made in a letter very interesting comments about the conduct of those he found there. Don't listen to me. I am an ism or a phobe. Don't listen to me. Go see the young JFK's letter on his visit to Palestine. A young Irish man given his take of the way of the world, and I tell you, it hasn't changed one bit. It has escalated in its ferocity, its savagery. And again, don't give me that Zionist evangelical response. Recognize the orchestrator, not the stick. Of course they want you divided and conquered and hating on Muslim man and them hating on you. Don't forget what in the name of the West and Christian values we've done to the Middle East for all the sins we see done against us today. We are both sticks used to beat the other men. Who is the bearer of that rod, I ask you? This is your awakening. Gold setup has extended. I will update on it. Targets are now well through 3,800. It was a harsh sell-off. It was a reaction. It took a long time before you got the eventual needed spill on silver. Platinum is already showing some basing. Sunday's session is going to be an interesting one. We are back long the franc against the yen. It is absolutely fascinating. And crypto, oh boy, crypto is money going to be made. But beware, it's not your friend. But trading and investing money can and will be made in that space. Follow the crypto sniper. We see Bitcoin in a falling wedge breaking to the upside. Ethereum, we see a 14K target. Yes, you heard me right. And we've got tokens that will outperform even that are in our community by some multiple. Mystery token, we see many. We've told you about XRP, an eventual 19.35 run. We're telling you about gold doing 3.8. And remember, if the gold-silver ratio continues to go down for now, which is what it's doing, you'll probably, if we were 88, 85s, you'll probably be down at 75s, 80s at the time of 3,800. If you divide 38 by 0.8, you will be in the low 40s for silver, and we'll be getting to that critical area approaching the $50 mark. And the following move up on gold could be historic for silver, because I think we will have a technical resistance. We might break with momentum first and pull back, or we might start to be reluctant to take out the new highs. But in the end, whichever version it takes, just breaking the 50, pulling back down below, big battle at the line, or smashing it and getting a pullback and it's now support. Whichever version of price behavior you get, the next move is the one for the ages. But what will they do before now and then for all you amateur holders, unofficial holders, who have failed to custody in an organized fashion, in a manner that the government may monitor for your safety and protection from thieves, barbarians with regular audits? Yeah, watch the comings that will go on there. Watch the release of the euro coming. Watch all these things. It's going to be the tail end of Q3 and the beginning of Q4 is going to be tumultuous. And the possibility of nominal down legs in the stock market, certainly there. Everything is hyperextended. But remember, on a devalued dollar, it can get worse before it gets better. Cutest puppy. It's a good boy. Yeah. So let's go speeding on to a nice beach where we can cool down. Think on those things regarding the market. How are you positioned? What will your course of action be? Think of all the people that will rat you out for 10,000, or how many pieces of silver did the Judas, how many Judas pieces of silver was it? Tell me it wasn't 33 or 13 or 12. I should know my Bible better. Put in the comments below, how many pieces of silver was it? Wasn't 12 or 13, I think it was more than that. Thanks, dickhead. To be great to know. But you will have many a Judas goat to curry favor, who will be fully in the Stockholm syndrome, vaccinated to the full, boosted to the full, ready to ensure your compliance to the new police state of technological oligarchical surveillance, to ensure that no crab escapes the bucket. Ready in the gulag archipelago to rat out those that refuse to play the game. Oh dear. All those, you know how they behaved during CV-19? Those are the people you need to worry about. Change country, obscure your tracks, disappear into the ether, start homesteading, start losing sight of the mainstream media and their machinations of creeping totalitarianism, popularly known as, we have yet to truly try, Bolshevik communism, where there is a ruling class that spans the whole world to ensure and if you think that doesn't come with a genocide, go and study the Bolshevik Revolution of Russia, the Chinese Revolution of Mao, Pol Pot of Cambodia, popularized by the killing fields. No supremacist ideology ever leads to more deaths than leftist Marxism, total statism. None. And they are only getting started. The cull they planned this time. This is turning into a reset, but more than a market sniper one. But the cull is deep. And we're on lists. People are taking chances for you. To tell you. We're on lists. Palantir, WhatsApp, Elon Musk, X profiles, also happening to be run by a female CEO. Yep. You're all on lists. We're all on lists. We're all getting a score. Right now, you're getting a score. You might want to reset that score. Start somewhere else. It's a good day to die and be reborn under a new name in a new land. with a biometrically different face. Yep, it's quite a gig to actually get out of this shithole. Here we are, time for my swim. So gold is golden, and it's going to do all it's supposed to do in due course. Stay with it. I'll update on the setup. If you're following this channel, hit the bell to say remind me of sniper videos. I will do the technicals on the gold. Silver will do sterling well. Platinum is going to continue to do well. They all have upside targets still to be made. And in nominal terms, many things will look stubbornly strong. You've never had it so good, they will say. But trust me, the liquidity spigots are on full pump. The dollar devaluation is at full pump. The debt devaluation is at full pump. And the rate rises that everybody thinks only apply to the long end will visit you all across the curve in the end. Because without suitable yield, a debt instrument is going to become a high-risk instrument with almost an assured likelihood of collapse, given that the issuer is technically bankrupt. People will say, no, we can just print more. You'll hear the justifications, the reasons why it's different for America, the hegemon. You'll hear all the tales as to why an endless supply of something somehow won't be repriced downward. You'll hear why the laws of supply and demand don't apply macroeconomically in the end. You'll hear why, because of the TGV this and the TGA that, and this account and that account and this, and you'll be spun a wonderful weave of complexity when you just have to be principle based. If there's too much of it, there's too many sellers, or the seller is selling way too much, the value goes down. It's as simple as that. An excessive supply, as per the big beautiful bill, on something that is already in excessive supply, goes down. If the value goes down, the rates go up, my friends. All those waiting for cuts. Powell will cut. Why hasn't he cut? Why has he made upset Trump so? Is he just an antagonist? But he's supposed to be a Republican sympathist. He's not a Trump-tard, but he's supposed to be a Republican. Why won't he cut? Because, my friends, somebody has to buy it at a higher price if he cuts. That debt instrument, he's upward valuing it. They don't control rates. Even eventually on the short end, if there's too much of it around, everyone goes, yeah, but they only control the short end. Given the right circumstances, they'll control no end, especially if there's no end to the debt. And it's coming at a faster pace, and there's nobody who wants it anymore, and they're all buying gold, as Luke Groman told you recently on Zero Hedge, and we told you 5 years ago. The death of debt is the turbo juice of gold, and it is the increase in rates. It's really simple. Don't be fooled. Supply and demand. Too much of something devalues it. If we all drive Bugattis, Veyrons, and it's not a special car anymore. The exclusivity is in the price. If it's prevalent all over the place, the price cannot be an exclusive one anymore. It will be a cheap one. It'll be the VW Beetle of our generation. We need to understand that supply and demand always wins out in the end. And that great corruption has gone already into sustaining debt at current levels, with a lot of not-for-profit trading and a lot of suppression in the precious metals markets already that is being uncorked and unleashed. And as silver goes into the 40s, will go for the third time towards the 50. And we talk about once, twice, 3 times a lady. The 4th time you run, and you run into open territory like a ferret freed on a field, my friends. Off like a dirty sock on washing day. I tell you, you have yet to see that move. And we've gone as far as 330, 569, but that is a statement on the dollar, not really on silver. But you've got to do 50, you've got to do mid 40s, you've got to do 50, you've got to do 90. These are all target levels, geometrically projected from our technicals. And then you start getting 330 and 600. And some of them might be a decade off. Some of them might be 3 years off. The truth is, this is so synchronized and has been sustained in a criminal way for so long. I think when it falls, it's all fall down and very violent. I don't think it's going to take long, but I do think it will be more brutal than anything you've ever seen. Okay, with that, I love you and leave you. We'll do an update on the charts for the metals, and we will do an update on crypto early in the new week as well. Bye for now.
Tired of profit wipeouts and blown accounts from following trade signal groups? Looking for a better way to trade? Why not be part of a principled, structured, and technically based community set inside a unique trading methodology? Enjoy a constructive learning environment while practically trading markets, supported by a bespoke platform run through browser or app, specifically designed to teach and engage you whilst learning and growing as the markets move. This is not a Telegram or Slack signal group. All trade ideas are based on a proprietary technical analysis process honed over decades, which is the HVF method, leading to trade ideas with fast-moving breakouts and tight stops, exact entries and exits, nuanced interim considerations, and ultimately strong rewards. Submissions are graded and scored by Francis for potential high-quality setups, and we provide bespoke tools to help get the job done properly and with precision. Over time, and with focused effort, you'll begin to look at charts, price action, and markets in a whole new light. Community updates every day by Francis and our 3 webinars a week provide a 360-degree approach, which are presented by our experienced team of trade leaders to spot potential trades. We're a community of self-actualized individuals, spanning the globe and active 24/7, 365. The premium community provides a warm, supportive, and cooperative place for people willing to listen, participate, contribute, and to learn. Transform your approach to trading now. Transform your life. Book an introductory call with us on the link below.